Browns as a whole.
He's done a remarkable job, and this statistic is crazy. They're 9-3, and for the year, they've been outscored by a total of 15 points. So they are running the ball really well. They're doing really well in a turnover margin, and that is a sign of a really well-coached team that they can win close games, because to be 6 games over 500 and still be outscored by 15 points is remarkable. But yesterday, I thought they totally outcoached Tennessee. They took advantage of Tennessee's aggressive nature. You saw the deep shot to Peoples-Jones. That was a double move off of play action that plays to Baker Mayfield's strength, which is he's a play action guy out of the pocket. He had 4 touchdown passes in the first half. And I think they're going to be a hard out in the playoffs because they don't beat themselves and they can control the line of scrimmage.
Next up for the Browns, they get the Monday night treatment. Week 14, they'll host Baltimore. In Week 14, in years past, that sounds like a terrible Thursday night game on the NFL Network. But no, this is a big one on Monday Night Football. Mike, thank you so much.
One for Dan.
Thanks, guys.
Dan Orlovsky on one. I hear music on one.
Keyshawn, J. Will Zubin, presented by Progressive Insurance. Cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and much more at Progressive.com, and much more on the Browns right now.
What did you see from the Browns offense that enabled them to jump out to that huge lead?
Listen, details matter, and Kevin Stefanski is there in Cleveland. They're coaching the details, and it's showing up in their passing game.
Believe in this team. We were all confident coming into this.
So here's the stat I want to give you, fellas, on how confident they were in Baker getting his swag back like he was winning the Heisman Trophy at Oklahoma. More from Baker here in just a second. He was absolutely amazing. The Browns scored essentially on their first 6 possessions. They went field goal and then 5 straight touchdowns. Think about that. I don't care who the opposition is. Field goal, 5 straight touchdowns on their first 6 possessions. It was 15 months ago. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson, huge game. The Browns breakout year. They're in the house. They're taking on the Tennessee Titans. It was supposed to be the Browns coming out party. And then the Titans just slapped them up and down the field. 15 months later, revenge is the Browns. And as Mike said, they are 9-3. Fellas, what can you say about Kevin Stefanski? What more can you say about this guy?
Nothing, really. I mean, I guess this is a signature win that we all kind of
we're waiting for, right?
We're kind of waiting for, so to speak. I actually picked Cleveland to win the division at the beginning of the year. They're not going to win the division, but they're certainly going to backdoor into a wild card playoff spot here. And when you look at them, it's just something that Kevin Stefanski came with a plan, and his plan was to duplicate some of the same things that he did in Minnesota with Kirk Cousins, and he's gotten Baker Mayfield to play within that system, and they're running the ball with Chubb. So it allows them in the passing game to run play-action passes and be able to push the ball down the field off the play-action pass. It allows the receivers to have double moves. Think about Peoples-Jones there. He ran a double move off a small boot, touchdown. And so as you start to look at what they want to do, you start to say, okay, this team has a recipe to be able to be portable because they can run the ball. They're weatherproof because they're in Cleveland. So wherever they travel to, the weather will not be an issue. And if it is, they can handle it because they got 2 studs of a back. They got Chubb and they got Kareem Hunt, and they got a quarterback that is protecting the football now. So I think that this is a football team to watch out for.
Kobe said it to Paul Gasol one time, you got to put your big boy pants on. And Cleveland put their big boy pants on yesterday. And it all started with Baker Mayfield. Now, we know Kevin Stefanski has done an incredible job with this team, changing the mantra of them, run first, pass second. But Baker Mayfield, 4 TDs in the first half. And I said this, previewing the game, the Titans have the 28th worst pass defense in the league. Yeah. And whoever gets ahead in this game, that the Titans offense isn't built just to come back because they're a run first offense as well. Look, the ceiling that the Browns have is high. It's high. And I don't even feel like they came close to touching it yesterday. I feel like they're still on the verge. And I'll say this. I know Pittsburgh is undefeated. I think that Cleveland team can beat Pittsburgh. I'm not sure they can beat Kansas City Chiefs, but I think that Cleveland team we saw yesterday, if Baker Mayfield plays at his potential, he played like the number 1 pick. I'm not saying he's consistently played in the number 1 pick. I'm not saying they're going to change up the offensive scheme of the team and the way they play. They still will be a run-first offense. But if he's able to give them breath, air, spirit like that, That's a team with a high ceiling that can go far.
Well, they took care of the quiz, right? The quiz they took care of that yesterday with Tennessee. Monday night against the Baltimore Ravens becomes the test because Baltimore Ravens have their number. Regardless to what the Ravens looked like the last couple times we saw them playing against a division opponent and you beat them up second week of the season and you beat them up in the past, that's the test. The test now is Baltimore. You pass the quiz. Now the test is Baltimore because the rest of the country is the entire country is going to be watching on a Monday night.
Indeed. They'll have the stage to themselves. Baker Mayfield essentially saying the way I played on Sunday, it's the swag I used to have on Saturdays.
Yeah, I mean, winning's fun. So, I mean, winning covers up a lot of things, but having everybody on the same page and moving towards the same goal is the biggest thing. And so I say it time out. It's just back in the spring, our foundation that we laid about our goals, we're all on the same page. So when you get a group that's hungry and sees the same things and works for the same things, that's when it really gets special. So we need to continue to get better because the job's not finished.
That swag like he had at Oklahoma. Jay, you think their ceiling is considerably higher than Key thinks for this season, for this team?
I mean, look, I think their defense stepped up. Derrick Henry, 15 carries, only 60 yards, right? He fumbled the ball for the first time in a year. They put a lot of pressure on Ryan Tannehill. Getting Myles Garrett back, I think, helps their defense out tremendously in this team. And the run game is the run game. You know what pieces they have between Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Baker Mayfield just plays at a different level. It seems... I know we got into this argument about are they better with OBJ. I do think that Baker Mayfield is better with OBJ for now because I think less has become more for him. I don't think he's tried to squeeze the ball to OBJ so much. He's letting the game breathe. Now, eventually, if he gets OBJ back in time, I still think you'll talk about a different Baker Mayfield. But I think Baker Mayfield is trending in the right direction. And I like hearing him talk with confidence. I want to see a guy like Baker Mayfield win. It's easy when you're the first pick in the draft and you're not living up to expectations and everybody wants to take their shots at you. He seemed like he believed in himself yesterday, and that's who that team can be. You saw who they could be, which is scary.
It's a different expectation, though, when you're the number one overall pick. It's just, and people put their expectations on you, Zubin, of what they want you to be and not what you should be. And I think the one thing that's great about what Kevin Stefanski has come into Cleveland to do is change things around to get Baker Mayfield to play what he needs him to be and not what others think he should be, which is 5 receivers out, 4 receivers out, throwing the ball all over the lot, out of the shotgun every single time. That's not the system that they want to run. And then when you look at it on the defensive side of the ball, what they do offensively helps their defense. It really does. It allows those guys to play us at a certain tempo and at a certain level. Now, I'm not so quick to say that they could beat Pittsburgh and they're going to take on Kansas City. I'm not bullish on that because I'm a one game at a time type person. And when OBJ was in the lineup, you could tell that they was starting to kind of get an understanding of what they wanted to do on offense. Now, all of a sudden, he's been missing for several weeks. The offense is clicking. But I wouldn't dare say that the Cleveland Browns is better off without a dominant player on their team. It just doesn't make any sense.
One final reminder, Stefanski actually was a finalist for the job that Freddie Kitchens got. So initially the Browns got it wrong, and then they finally righted their wrong, and they got the right guy.
How you go hire Freddie Kitchens over Kevin Stefanski? Freddie Kitchens never called a play a day in his life.
And that's why the coach-GM combination is no longer there, and they swapped it out for 2 new guys. More NFL talk here in A to Z.
From Chicago to Philly and everywhere in between. From A to Z.
All right, fellas, let's try to run through this. A to Z brought to you by Redbox.
To put Jalen in the game.
Jalen Hurts is in and stays in.
Do you think you should be the starter?
A lot of these things are outside of my control.
Did you think you should have gotten a chance before today?
Anything that can help this team.
The move has been made for now.
Those 3 words from the legendary voice of the Eagles, Merrill Reese. Hurts is in. The question is, for how long? Came in the 3rd quarter, lost to the Packers, and do you guys want to put your young starter in a place, 2nd-round pick, in a spot where he would be making his first career start at home against a Saints team that has won 9 in a row and is the hottest team in the NFC? That would be an interesting spot to not put him in the 3rd quarter after your starter is struggling, but put him in from snap 1 Moment 1, Doug Peterson non-committal on his starter when the Saints come to Philly on Sunday.
Why is that always such a big deal when you go to play somebody? It's the opponent that they're playing. Why would you want to play him against the Saints? It doesn't matter. It's still a football team. It doesn't matter if it's the Saints or if it's the worst team. If it's the New York Jets, he's got to play.
But here's the argument from the fan perspective. You just heard that on 94 WIP, by the way. And that would simply be there's a crisis of confidence with the other guy. And the idea is if you put a young guy in and the Saints, who winners of 9 in a row, were coming at him, that might ruin his confidence if he doesn't play well from the start. Jay disagrees. The only reason I'm saying that is the other guy was pulled because he has lost all of his confidence.
Well, that's on him. That's his confidence. That's him in his makeup. Jalen Hurts has never, ever, as long as I've been knowing the kid, when he was in high school all through Alabama and at Oklahoma, he's never, ever displayed to me at all a lack of confidence. At all. Even when he lost the starting job to Tua, no confidence was shaken whatsoever. So it's just funny all the time when I hear people say that, though, Jay. No. Like, we don't want to start him against Pittsburgh on a short week because they're going to do this to him. Okay, they're going to try to do it to him. What if he was the starter at the beginning of the season? His first snap as a quarterback in the National Football League. Same thing. It's the same thing, Z.
My best experiences in life have been when I got thrown into the fire. Just throw me into the fire.
Yes.
You don't need to ease me into anything.
No.
Let me figure it out. I'll make my mistakes, but I much rather make my mistakes by feeling out and gaining that experience. Look, Jalen Hurts should be the starter, but everything that Doug Peterson has shown me over his time as a head coach, everything that he said about Carson Wentz will let me know that he probably won't be the starter, that he'll probably play a lot more, but I don't think Doug Peterson is just willing to let Carson Wentz lose the quote-unquote confidence that you said quarterbacks are so fragile with. I don't understand that. I don't know why Jalen Hurts isn't the starter, and I know you're going to say follow the money. It's always about following the money, but it has to get to a certain point where Doug Peterson needs to have a conversation with himself in the mirror and say, we have nothing to lose by just starting Jalen Hurts and letting him play a full game.
Well,
Let him play one full game and see what happens.
Last week before, I said that this would probably be right around now, the Green Bay game, see where Carson Wentz is at, where it goes. They made the decision to pull Carson Wentz. Now that you made the decision to pull Carson Wentz, what I would do is now I'm starting Jalen Hurts, and we're going to finish the season with Jalen Hurts. And I know it's a lot of money. Now we're going to have a quarterback competition next offseason and into the season during training camp. That's the way I would set it up. And I think Doug Peterson, I would be shocked if Doug Peterson goes back to Carson Wentz, because what you've now shown the team is that you do have a guy in Jalen Hurts that you have confidence in because he's shown you some things, leading the charge. He was 5 of 12 for 100, a little bit over 100 yards, a touchdown, and a little bit of an interception. That's okay. We can fix that, but we got to give him time to be able to do it. And I think that's what you do. I think you start him this week against the Saints, and then you see where it goes from there. And come the offseason, there's an open quarterback competition.
I love this, Zubin, because I just want to see how Carson Wentz responds. Right? Like, never